This is FrontPage with Njideka Maduka, bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
Indeed, FrontPage with me, Njideka Maduka. It's a lovely Thursday. I'm hoping it's lovely at your end. It's been an awesome time in the country. In fact, I think it's safe to say what a time to be alive in the country. With all of the dramas of the past few days, electronic transmission and all that. And I think it's safe to congratulate the people who tried to fight to get the minimum that they could get. They didn't get all of the things that they asked for, but the one that they got, I think they should congratulate themselves. The process is not yet ended, so let's see what the conference committee is going to do about that. All right, that's democracy in action. So I think thumbs up to everyone who contributed to the whole conversation and discussion about our electoral process. Let's see what plays out in 2027. Incidentally, all of the talks around electronic transmission is not here on the front page today because we have been bombarded with something else entirely. Okay, so welcome once again. We're going to be focusing on the Vanguard, on the Guardian, and of course the Punch.
This is FrontPage with Njideka Maduka, bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
We're starting off with the Vanguard, and this one is a human interest story. It says, we are drinking poison, Monarch women lament as gas leak hits Rivers communities. We are drinking poison, Monarch women lament as gas leak hits Rivers communities. I mean, look at the picture of that pipe. Is it the real pipe now that is leaking or some other image? But regardless, the story is a case of an SOS being sent by residents of Oshie and neighboring Akinima communities in Ahuada West local government area of Rivers State. The report says they are battling the impact of a gas leak from an Owando underwater pipeline that has contaminated their only source of water. They are therefore pleading with the authorities to come to their aid. While we were growing up, the commonest thing I heard while watching the television was always this thing about, oh, government, come to our aid. Government, come to our aid. And up to this very moment, the people are still crying for government to come to their aid. That call is still rife, and it's as if government almost never comes. Okay, so I think this matter should be escalated. And that's why I'm treating the story first. And so if somebody happens to hear it, the relevant authority should be heard that the people of Oshie and Akinima in Ahuada West local government area of Rivers State are crying for help because the water that they used to do almost everything is being contaminated by a leaking Owando pipeline, and it's been going on for a year. Yes, nothing concrete has been done. They have contacted the company, nothing. I mean, they started contacting the company when it was owned by Ajib. Nothing was done about it. And now Owando has taken over and they're still crying. I mean, isn't government supposed to step in at this point? These people cannot fish, they cannot soak cassava, because that's where the women soak their cassava for other byproducts of it. They're battling all manner of sickness, stooling, vomiting, skin rashes. Their source of livelihood has turned into a source of sickness. I mean, it's really pathetic how a people's natural resource usually becomes a curse. Imagine the abundance that should have been there if the leakage was not happening. Abundance of food, and the fact that the food could have been cheaper, We don't want this to turn into another Ogoni situation. Please, authorities, do something. Water is basic. They should not suffer like this. Alright, we're moving on to the Guardian. Remember, we have the tradition of just benching on the first two stories, then focus on the main one. And the Guardian, North decries 2027 politics despite insecurity, 4,654 deaths in 2025. North decries 2027 politics despite insecurity, 4,654 deaths in 2025. The report says a new violent conflict report says 4,654 people have been killed and over 3,000 abducted last year. But guess what? Attention is being shifted towards 2027 politics. Incidentally, the report is coming at a time groups like Arawa Consultative Forum have noticed the worsening situation in the north, the killings, the poverty, and they are therefore asking politicians to please refocus. They held a meeting and they had to decry what was going on in the north. You know what they say, politics in Nigeria never really stops. Once one election ends, the next political permutations begin. So in that sense, it's not surprising that politics is ongoing. We are about a year plus to the general elections. And so you can expect politicians to start talking about politics now. So we even tell you the first 2 years of an administration is for governance. Then the remaining 2 are for politicking and software campaigns. And so it's quite unfortunate, but that is where we have found ourselves as a people. Maybe this course should have started immediately after the 2023 elections, because that was when we started hearing the talks about coalition ahead of the next election, which is 2027. That was when Atiku and Co said they were going to, come together and all that. But the fact in Nigeria is that good governance is still a tall dream. It's not because the politicians are focusing on election. Even when they're not focusing on election, what they provide for the people is still unsatisfactory. That's the truth. But that's the story. Let's see whether the people will reward them for their ineptitude come next election. Now, away from that to the Punch. On the front page of the Punch, this is the one we really want to focus on because the story was just everywhere. Religious freedom violations, APC, NNPP back Kwankwaso as US sanction tension rises. Religious freedom violations, APC, NNPP back Kwankwaso as US sanctions tension rises. It says the All Progressives Congress and the New Nigeria People's Party have rejected the proposed visa bans and asset freezes recommended by United States lawmakers against ex-Kano State Governor Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, and the Miyetti Allah Cattle Hore over alleged violations of religious freedoms in Nigeria. And so we're learning that there is a bill titled the Nigerian Religious Freedom and Accountability Act of 2026, introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives by lawmakers like Chris Smith, Raleigh Moore, Brian Marsh, and Bill Uzenga. Imagine a country making a law with your name, with your country's name in it. It's really, I don't know how to put it. It's just like Nigerian lawmaker coming up with a bill. The bill is specific to maybe United States. When all of these things happen, it just shows you how much the country has sunk. And so if we cannot do checks and balances in the country, maybe other people will help us to do it, which I think is what this bill is all about. And so everybody is now talking and trying to react. There was something that happened last year on X, formerly Twitter. It was during the height of this US-Nigeria bilateral tension when US President Donald Trump told Secretary of War Pete Hegseth that they should prepare for the possible invasion of Nigeria due to alleged Christian genocide. Kwankwaso, who is the former governor of Kano State, responded to that news and said instead of the US trying to invade Nigeria or trying to create divisions by oversimplifying our insecurity, they should help us with the equipment, they should help us to fight insecurity and all of that. Obviously, US Congressman Raleigh Moore saw that particular post and responded to Kwankwaso directly. He said, and I quote, let me read what he said. He said, "Governor, do you care to comment on your own complicity in the death of Christians? You instituted Sharia law. You signed a law that makes so-called blasphemy punishable by death." When I saw Moore's response, what came to my mind was, trouble they sleep, Iyangago wake up. So right now, I'm thinking, is it because of that exchange that Kwankwaso's name is now found in the US Congress bill that is proposing sanction for those they allege are violating religious freedom? Did Moore, after seeing Kwankwaso's post, decide to check out his profile before replying him, or had he always known his antecedent as a governor? Regardless of whatever it is or whichever it is, the fact is that Kwankwaso faces possible sanction in terms of visa ban and asset freeze if this bill scales through and is signed into law. A number of persons are reacting just like the headline said, APC, NNPP. Now you have the APC Director of Publicity, Bala Ibrahim, cautioning the US government against taking action solely based on allegations. I don't know if the Director of Publicity is speaking in an individual capacity or speaking for APC. But one thing I know is that APC at the national level knows better than to dabble into such sensitive issue, especially as Kwankwaso is not of the APC. What the Nigerian government is doing now currently is trying to extricate the country from being labelled as a country of particular concern. There's a report of about $9 million allegedly being spent by the government to lobby the US government. And there's a bill and a legislative process that will possibly lead to that labeling. So I believe that's the focus of the Nigerian government, to ensure that that doesn't happen, that we're not labeled as a country of particular concern. Now, whether the Nigerian government will now leave that to pursue Kwankwaso's case is not clear, unless they decide to be magnanimous to save Kwankwaso, or use it as a bargaining chip to woo Kwankwaso into APC so they can claim Kano's over 1 million votes in 2027. You know how politicians roll. You really can't tell how far they can go just to achieve what they want to achieve. Now, leaving that, you have the NNPP too reacting through its National Publicity Secretary, Ladipo Johnson, and he's saying it is a contrived action against an innocent man who clearly has no relationship with religious fundamentalism in Nigeria. They go ahead to talk about how Kwankwaso dealt with Boko Haram as governor, how he related with Christian leaders while he was governor, how he picked a Christian running mate in 2023. They're also asking if Kwankwaso is being singled out due to Sharia. What about other governors who signed the Sharia law at that time? And that's why I asked initially, why is Kwankwaso being singled out? Did he use his hand to buy market, like we say in local parlance? No matter what it is, the congressmen, according to this report, are listing him alongside Mayor Jiala and co as individuals or entities responsible for severe religious freedom violations. If we are to go by Raleigh Moore's tweet last year, it's most likely that Kwankwaso is being penciled for signing the Sharia law when he was governor. But I think it goes beyond Sharia, I think it's more about the perceived fallout of Sharia and how Sharia is being applied. There are people who think that the Sharia contributed to the emergence of religious extremist groups like Boko Haram, that it somewhat contributed to its escalation, if at all it did not contribute directly to it. The opinion is that if people like Kwankwaso had not signed Sharia into law, maybe we wouldn't be talking about insecurity in Nigeria at the rate we are talking about it now. Secondly, it's also about the extent and limit of Sharia. The fact that the implementation of Sharia has affected both Muslims and non-Muslims. The US congressman indicated so in the bill. The impression being created is that Sharia is only applicable to Muslims. But we have seen that that is not the case. Because take for example, when there is some sort of Ramadan fast, Christians who are seen eating are being harassed by the Hizbah police. And if you look up cases of religious killings or those who have been jailed due to alleged blasphemy in the past decade, you will count not less than maybe 8 Christian names. Or remember the case of Deborah Samuel, the one that happened in Sokoto State. Or remember the case of Bridget Abahime. There are quite a number of them. Florence Chukwu, Christiana Luatoyin Luashesin. You have the case of Rhoda Jatau. This case of Rhoda Jatau is even funny because she was imprisoned for about 18 months because she shared a video condemning Deborah Samuel's death. But those who killed Deborah are still roaming about. The worst is that when these killings happen, there will be condemnation from all quarters. Suspects will be arrested, then released. The one of Bridget Abahime in Kano in 2016, the state attorney general was the one that reportedly withdrew the case for whatever reason. That was under Abdullahi Ganduje as governor. The same thing happens to almost all the cases. For no reason, the case will not proceed, and then someone will deny that there is no religious violations. You can deny the claim of Christian genocide, but can you deny the claim of rights and freedom violations in the name of religion by some individuals? I've always said it that if Nigeria is not willing to talk about the extent of the implementation of Sharia, then we're going to have people like Raleigh Moore talking about it on our behalf. If we're not willing to talk about the extent of Sharia implementation, then we're deceiving ourselves. If you cannot be firm with those who should be subjected to Sharia, or if you cannot be specific as to who should be subjected to Sharia or not, then don't deceive yourself and the rest of the world that there is religious freedom or rights freedom in the country. You may not be violating people's freedom, but there are other people who are violating other people's freedom. The federal government is reportedly spending about $9 million lobbying the US. But the question is, to what extent will the lobbying go? If the US manages not to label you as a country of particular concern and possibly supply you with weapons, does this stop people like Raleigh Moore from holding on strongly to their belief of religious violations in the country? Does it stop the fact that people are killed for religious reasons in the country? Beyond these foreign individuals trying to hold the mirror to our face, I think the federal government should be bold enough to lead the conversation on who gets penalized for breaching Sharia law. Is it Muslims? Is it Christians? Is it traditional worshippers? Is it everybody? We can't have leaders in the country that will condemn religious killings and will not bother or push for justice when suspects are released and still claim Sharia is just for Muslims. You can't keep doing that and expect to be believed. And you don't need Donald Trump to point out the contradictions. You don't need Erali Moore and his colleagues to do that. You only need to look yourself in the mirror. And so Nigeria, we need to have that honest conversation. It's a conversation that the country must have if it must progress. Alright? And that's it on the front page today. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to drop your comments and let us know what you think about any of the headlines, right? Follow me on my social media platforms. Just log on to linktree.aa/Njideka Maduka. I'd like to hear what you think, okay? We're going to see you again hopefully on the next one. Until then, do have a fantastic Thursday and keep praying for the country. I'll see you again.